Hello everyone, this is the lecture for 1010, week 5. Let's just get right into it. So this week you'll watch this lecture. You have a secret word due by Wednesday. Um, Read the following articles. John Green, that's an abbreviation. Harry Potter's Girls' Trouble. We'll continue reading Jingle Bells. I'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And Models Chapter 7, your textbook. Also, not listed on the syllabus, I'm going to have you listen to a podcast, one episode rather, from, it's called The Dropout. It's about the Theranos scandal. That is also under reading assignments, or as I list here, you can listen to wherever you, if you download podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. It is a full week. You have 3 minor assignments this week, so you do have a discussion board due by Wednesday, the first post. Your quiz based on the readings due by Thursday, and you do have a short assignment based on Theranos due Saturday, and then of course 2 responses. Nothing major due this week. You just turned in your illustration by actually the day this is posting, and so the next big thing is the argument topic outline due March 10th. Alright, let's talk about last week. So last week, again, you wrote a short article about former Marine gets banned. One thing I wanted you to get from this is that, this person that was not happy that his daughter was being taught Islam, his one issue is, where am I looking for it? He told the school, and they are quoted, he said, I will bring down a shitstorm on the school. I'm contacting the media, the newspaper, and contacting an attorney. Now, the problem is, and this was his mistake, is he did not mean violence, I would hope. But unfortunately, you can't take those chances anymore. What he meant was, you know, uh, negative attention towards the school. But a school cannot presume that it is innocent. That's just not the world we're in today, unfortunately. And so, again, once you find out what he said, I mean, if he said, I will bring the media, again, it's so much, people's mistakes really center on sometimes 1 or 2 words or 1 or 2 sentences. Um, Again, where am I finding the quote? If he just didn't say that, he just said, if he just told them, I'm contacting the media, the newspaper, and contacting an attorney, the school really would not have any grounds to say, you can't come into the school. But by saying I'm going to bring a shitstorm, you got to be careful today with what you say. What you say matters, and you know, unfortunately for this person, um, it made him into a news article. So that's all I wanted you to get out of that. What else? Better Call Saul. I talked a decent amount about this last week. How it is just a decent essay, and how it does kind of break down what makes it a good essay. I'm sorry. It's structured well in terms of its thesis that Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad. Now, the audience is clearly for people who've watched Breaking Bad, so that's kind of a negative thing about it. But other than that, it does a really good job. It's a good model, and it's actually very structured if you really break it down. So feel free to do that. And then Led Zeppelin, which I don't even have up, we talked about that last week too. The funny thing about the Led Zeppelin article is, again, they're not thieves, but yet it's been proven they are thieves in the past. So the headline, I can't even remember if it was the thesis statement, but it was just a little contradictory. But what they're saying is, in this case, in the case of Stairway to Heaven, they are not thieves. However, and they gave comments about that, however they were um, uh, considered thieves in the past. So, all right, so this week, let's see, the John Green. This is one of those shorts. Oops. Hopefully it's still available. There we go. Very short article about John Green. He's a young adult author, pretty popular, and he kind of got some weird. It was interesting. Someone basically accused him of preying on young girls, and he gave a defense, and it was interesting what his defense was. And I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are of that. So, again, very short article, but interesting, especially if you are a fan of his work. Next up, Harry Potter's Girl Trouble. So this is an interesting essay. We will talk about it at length next week. Again, how good of an essay is it? Basically, I'll give you a little hint. The thesis is, despite being, Harry Potter is a very successful young adult series that is in fact written by a woman, and yet, according to this author, it is surprisingly negative to female characters, and that's the author's contention and her support. It'd be interesting to see if you think she does have enough support on whether or not that is the case. So, any of you Harry Potter fans, whenever we discuss this in class, it's always interesting to talk to people who are actually, big Harry Potter fans that are really knowledgeable about the series, and it's interesting to see what they say about it. And the author does get a pass. I'm not going to mention it now, but again, we'll have to see if you consider it, but I'll bring it up next week. And then, oh, Jingle Bells. So, is this it? So you're going to read pages 382 to 389, I believe I said. Yeah. Again, I'll probably talk about all of it in one lecture, more than likely on the last one. So, definitely email me questions, though, if you have trouble with this essay. It's not meant to be an easy read. It is a journal article. It is college level. It's kind of stuff you will have to read in college. So I'm kind of doing two things here: having you read a high level academic article, and also um, we're gonna disseminate what the media thought of this journal article. So, but we'll do that when we get to in a few weeks, I think. So those are your reading assignments. And then last but not least, the Dropout. So the Dropout is a podcast about Elizabeth Holmes and her company called Theranos. And you are assigned to read the second episode, which is called The Enforcer. The first episode is called Myth Making. Feel free to listen to the first episode. I think it's very interesting. But a quick summary is Elizabeth Holmes was a student at Stanford, dropped out when she was 19, and founded this company that would basically would do hundreds of tests on a very small droplet of blood. And it was supposed to revolutionize, because right now, I mean, this happened to me a few years ago. When I had I had a lot of tests done for myself, so they had to extract some blood. They extracted it was like 18 vials of blood, and I don't give blood very often, but I remember thinking, man, this is a lot. So if you've ever been in any type of serious condition, where you had to have a lot of tests done, it's hard, especially if they continually do it to check yourself. So the idea was, how can we still test accurately with taking less blood, and also not being as, it does hurt to actually get into a vein. So the problem is, her idea that she had, it just didn't work. So they kept on promising, they kept on, and basically they lied. They frauded many individuals and companies on promises that just weren't true. So it's an interesting scandal, um, and there's a little drama to it because uh, the young woman who founded the company ends up in a relationship with another CEO, older man. It's just it's which is not a big deal in and of itself. But she was also a little obsessive. I mean, to the point where she actually changed her voice. She idolized Steve Jobs, and like if she would basically do anything Steve Jobs had done, including down to how he dressed. He was known for his turtlenecks, and she quickly would start wearing turtlenecks as well. So she's an interesting figure, and it's now all kind of came out to light. The reason why, so I've been listening to this, obviously, and one episode, obviously episode 2, really struck me, and I was wondering how can I coincide this with the class, is that, for years, and you'll hear this on the podcast, is, this woman was lauded and just celebrated as this genius and just amazing person, and she's changing the world, etc., etc. But the fact was, she was lying. She was not honest. She was not authentic. Um, and some people knew this. And it's very challenging when you're the minority voice of something and you're trying to convince the rest of the world that something is the opposite of what the world thinks. And actually, there's 2 episodes I really could do. But so the main thing that I want you to pay attention to, and kind of like to keep your ears open, is pay attention to the person you're introduced to around the 15-minute mark, and especially there's something he says at the approximately the 25-minute mark. So you should listen to the whole thing though, regardless. I mean, the whole episode. But again, it's up to you if you want to listen to episode 1 if you kind of feel like you need that context. It's an additional 40 minutes or so. So it's up to you if you want to do it. I think you can listen to it and it shouldn't be a problem. But I want you to contemplate what that is like, being the unpopular, having an unpopular belief, and how that does affect you. And many were. I mean, like one of the reasons. So one thing that's kind of come to light is why was this allowed to continue? Well, she was a bit of a bully apparently, and so if you ever crossed her, that was always a bit of a problem. But not only that, I mean, some people just, let's just call it what it is, they were just weak. And they knew they were lying. They knew they were doing something wrong, but you know what? I'm not going to rock the boat. And again, you're going to have to, hopefully you're not in that situation in your career, but you may. That, the company is saying do this, but they are wrong in what they're doing. And, if you keep quiet, you'll be fine, but it's also not the right thing to do ethically. So it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. And there's another person. So if you do continue the podcast, um, one of the board members of the company, his grandson was hired, and his grandson was one of the whistleblowers trying to say, they aren't, this is not true. Our product does not work. This woman, Elizabeth Holmes, is lying to you. And the grandfather wouldn't even listen to him, to his own grandson. So, very interesting story. It's actually going to be a movie, actually by the same people who did Vice. So I really enjoyed the movie Vice. So I think it's going to be an interesting movie if they do it well, which I fully anticipate they will. But this is an investigation about it. You can read about it. In fact, that's part of your assignment is to do a little Google search. Um, it's not necessary. It's just kind of recommended. But anyways, I'll get to that in a second. So that's your last reading assignment, although you'll be listening. So let's start with a discussion board. So your discussion board is, yes, think about a time that you had a minority viewpoint on an issue. So much like the person you're going to listen to on the podcast. Explain 1, 2 paragraphs how you would approach someone with the opposite opinion. Now they don't get into that with this gentleman, although later episodes they do with the grandson. Um, but how do you approach someone that just thinks something completely opposite of you? And again, the reason why this is significant, this is writing. This is the basis of writing. How do you approach someone that just fundamentally does not agree with you, that does not agree with your thesis? That there is a way to do it. You know, it's not impossible, but there is a way. So, I want to see your discussions on that. So that's your discussion board. Of course, first post due by Wednesday, 2 responses due by Saturday. You do have a quiz. I think it's called, I don't know what we're up to, quiz number 4. Oh yes, and models. Your chapter for models just is on the paragraph. So, I mean, basically the paragraph is a mini version of the essay. So, a paragraph should have a topic sentence, which is essentially the thesis of the paragraph. So, but read the chapter on it. That will help you understand what the role is for a paragraph. I forgot to mention that. And then you do have an assignment, and this is absolutely have to do with the podcast. So I just want to hear your thoughts on the Dropout podcast. And again, and then also Google Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes and try to explain how she was able to fool so many people for so long. So, I already gave you one hint. Well, she was a bit of a bully, but honestly, this was a situation I just had with work. So without getting specifics, I mean, like, so there was someone that that I work with. Basically, a whole group of people found their supervisor to be a bit of a bully. And, I kind of represented these people, and I would say to them, like, well, I don't know what you're afraid of. She can't do anything to you. She can't fire you. She can't do this. She can't do that. I mean, what are you so worried about? I mean, you have rights and so on and so forth. But again, I've been very fortunate, knock on wood. I've never had a real bully of a boss. I've always been very fortunate with all the bosses I've had over the years. So I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what that's like, and it could really affect you. So like, I mean that it's reasonable to suggest that a bully can really affect um, how someone makes a decision, especially on a big ethical situation like that. So um, you know, try to see if you can find, I mean, my goal is that hopefully you read about this person and think, wow, how did she get away with this? Like that should be alarming that it happens, but yet it does continue to happen all the time. Bad things happen because people in charge basically push a bad agenda that is detrimental to not just, others, but to sometimes for society. So again, I'm interested in your thoughts on that. So that's the assignment with that. And then last but not least, so that's due Saturday, your assignment. And then, of course, you have to give 2 responses to the discussion board. And then last but not least, due right before spring break would be your argument, topic, and outline. And we haven't talked about this too much, but this is kind of like your final of this class. So you got to find an argument of topic. So you should be thinking about it. So submit a topic or an outline by March 10th. So that's obviously not due this week, but it will be due fairly soon. All right, and then last but not least, you do have a secret word. The word is dragon, Dragon. So that's it for this week. So any questions, let me know. And I'm trying to catch up on grading your illustration essay. that will definitely be at the forefront of what I would like to accomplish. I will be emailing you back feedback on your illustration essay when it's done graded, so look for that in your inbox. So any other questions, let me know, and have a good rest of the week.